Good afternoon, and welcome to the regular meeting of the City of Glendale Commission on Status of Women. Roll call, please.
Vice Chair Brazilian,
Present.
Commissioner Lambelat,
Here.
Chair Magrin,
Here.
Commissioner Perrin,
Here.
Commissioner Simerjan, Ex officio Akbarjan,
Here.
Ex officio Goulignan.
Here.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Harabedian. Next item, please.
Item A, report regarding the posting of the agenda. The agenda for the February 10, 2020 meeting was posted on the bulletin board outside of City Hall on or before February 7, 2020. Item 2, introductions and presentations. Item A under item 2, presentation, teen dating violence, Laura Urfalian and Ophelia Unjian.
Good evening, Chair Magrin, members of the Commission, and staff. My name is Ophelia Unjin. I'm an Associate Marriage and Family Therapist. My colleague, Laura Ulfalian, is an Associate Clinical Social Worker, and we are mental health therapists from Glendale Unified School District Student Wellness Service Department under the leadership of Dr. Eileen Magrin. We provide mental health services to children and youth, and today we're going to do a presentation on teen dating violence. My colleague Laura Wafalian will lead the presentation.
Thank you, Ophelia. So, teen dating violence is a form of intimate partner violence. Teens in our schools are in unhealthy relationships that involve control, physical abuse, and other forms and behaviors that can allow them, that allows them to, it follows them into adulthood, and as perpetrators or as victims of relationship abuse. Dating abuse can be defined as a pattern of violent and controlling behavior. It takes many forms. It could be threats, it could be isolation from friends and family, physical abuse, and it's a pattern of violent and controlling behavior. Abuse can cause injury or even death, but it doesn't have to be physical. There are 4 types of teen dating abuse: physical, emotional, sexual, and technological. Physical is punching, kicking. Emotional is bullying, threatening. Sexual is forcing a teen to engage in sexual acts, including fondling and rape. And technological abuse is a form of texting and using any type of social networking to harass and intimidate the youth. Some statistics, nearly 1 in 11 female and approximately 1 in 15 male high school students have reported to have been involved in physical dating violence in the last year. 1 in 4 teens have been prevented from spending time with friends and family, and has also have been controlled in who to spend time with or spend time with a partner. Sexual abuse statistics: 58% of all rape victims reported being raped between the ages of 12 and 14. It can have severe impact and consequences on the teen. Psychological effects can include anger, stress, eating disorders, alcohol, substance abuse, thoughts of suicide, as well as any other self-harm behavior. It could have negative impact on the health of the teen throughout their adult life. It will often carry patterns of violence into their adult lives. The LGBT youth are more likely to experience sexual coercion, cyber dating abuse, and other forms of physical and psychological dating abuse than heterosexual youth. And girls are more likely to be victims of sexual abuse. So these are some of the impacts of how the teenagers can be impacted and the consequences.
Thank you, Laura. We're going to get into the cycle of violence. The first stage, as you can see, it talks about the honeymoon stage, which everything looks happy, positive, cheerful. The next stage we'll get into when tension's building up, meaning the abuser may ask who's, what, where's, and why's, and we'll get into that in the next slides of where you're going, what you're doing. The following stage are threats and intimidation. They may threaten to either hurt themselves or other people of the partner that they're dating. The next stage is actual violence or when sexual aggression begins. And then the last stage is the abuser will get into apologies, making tearful comments, apologizing for what they've done, and then it goes back into the honeymoon stage. So this cycle is never ending, it's continuous. What to look for? There's 3 different things to look for: physical effects, psychological effects, and social effects. The physical effects are things that we see: cuts, scrapes, burns, noticeable weight changes, teen pregnancy. The psychological effects are things such as anger, depression, stress, sleep disturbances, lack of motivation, lack of focus and concentration, and some thoughts of suicidal ideation. Social effects are isolation or withdrawal from family, friends, or other support groups. Some warning signs of the abusive relationship. The abuser talks about these things with their partner. They may say, I love you, and they may devour their love to the person right away, even if they don't really know them and it's been a short amount of time. They may ask the who's, what, where's, and why's, where you're going, what you're doing. They may look into their text messages, emails, and see who they're calling and who they're not calling. And they often criticize them about what they're wearing, what they're doing. They will tell them that that you don't know what I'll do if something happens in the relationship. They'll state that he or she may harm themselves if you leave. They will constantly remind them that it's their fault, that if something's going on wrong in the relationship. And they often use these statements: if you loved me, then you would do this for me, meaning this is where sexual coercion or sexual acts will be displayed. Some statistics about teen dating violence that includes sexual experiences. This is also in regards to tweens. Some statistics that stood up that was very prominent were among teens, 1 in 10 indicate being physically abused by their dating partner, and the 58% of tweens who have had sex report that their partner wanted to know where they were. Tween dating is the ages in between 11 and 14 years old. The studies do show that tweens that are involved in early dating who also experience sexual activity leads to higher numbers of dating violence. On the graph next door, you will see 3 different colors. The ones that stood out were teens who, by the age of 14, were involved in some sort of teen dating violence. The ones that have the higher percent were acts done before the age of 14. How can we get involved? Not only as parents, as community members, but as school professionals, we want to be able to pay attention. We want to look at observable patterns or signs that we may see in our teens, such as things that are physically noticeable or behavioral changes. We also want to listen to what they are saying or maybe not saying. We want to be able to recognize the friends that they hang out with and the support groups that are involved, whether it's at school or at home. And we also want to have a discussion about dating and what teen dating is, and we want to know about who they are dating. We want to have open and honest conversations with our teens and not judge them for who they're dating or whatnot. We want to tell our teens what to watch out for. So we want to tell them that if you notice a pattern in your partner's behaviors changing or having multiple patterns, you want to be able to look out for that. You don't want to you don't want to judge your teen based on what they are saying. And of course, always, most importantly, you want to lead by example as parents or as mentors in the community. And the last slide is just some helpful resources that we found for this topic that we posted. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Laura and Ophelia. Commissioners, do anybody have any questions?
I do.
Of course.
Thank you. I'm just curious, once you identify the violence as school counselors, what happens to the, the perpetrators or the guilty party? I mean, do they end up going to juvenile detention centers or there's counseling? What happens?
So definitely when we're working with minors under the age of 18, there are certain jurisdictions that we have to follow. We are mandated reporters, and we do report to DCFS if sexual acts are being forced. So in other words, if consensual sex is not present, then we would need to report to DCFS. And there are certain age groups that we would need to follow, which is usually under the age of 14, so 13 and younger. And then if there's a 10-year gap in between partners. But it's always if sex is not consensual or any sexual activity is not consensual, we would need to make a report to the Department of Children and Family Services.
And also counseling is offered as well to the youth through school services.
So in the events of, let's say, mental abuse where it's, a very gray line and it's, hard to identify and pinpoint, what happens in those cases?
Sure. So under our guidelines as mandated reporters, we are not investigators in finding out what is exactly going on. If we have a suspicion of any type of physical, mental, verbal, or sexual abuse, we can call DCFS and consult with them.
Thank you, ladies. I just wanted to add, domestic violence is huge, and especially when you're working with teenagers. We're all mandated reporters by law as educators and definitely as therapists. We do have to report. But in addition to that, if the act happened at the school site, our administrators and principals, they get involved. We do an investigation, and of course, parents are contacted, and there's consequences. And of course, law enforcement, they get notified and involved. As Ophelia mentioned, we're not law enforcement, so we do not lock up students or any act that comes towards our direction. But we definitely have to support the families, and counseling is one that we definitely support. But law enforcement's definitely they're part of it. If the act happened outside of the school campus or a different city, then the police officers get involved. But if it happens, for example, Burbank or Pasadena, then it would be the PD for that department and that city that gets involved, and they conduct the investigation. But yeah, we do take it very seriously, and if we hear or in any kind of therapy sessions, it comes out that we are aware as therapists that they are being abused, we definitely report.
One more question. I'm assuming you teach this in the classrooms. I mean, do you go into the classrooms and, educate everybody?
If there's a need, definitely.
Oh, it's not part of like a curriculum?
There's a lot of discussion within the classroom and the teachers that is discussed with teens, but there's an extra support that is requested. We definitely will go in and do that. That depends on what the request is.
And also in our health curriculum, we do have a section that they go over teen and healthy relationships. So we do, offer that, in our schools as well.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. So next item on the agenda, please.
Item 3, oral comment. Discussion is limited to items not a part of this agenda. Each speaker is allowed 5 minutes. The commission may question or respond to the speaker, but there will be no debate or discussion. Staff may refer the matter to the proper department for investigation and report. We have no cards submitted. You guys didn't submit any cards for oral communication? You're just here for this agenda item. Got it. Okay. So we can move on. Okay, item 4, consent items. Item 4A, approval of the minutes of the special commission meeting held on November 12, 2019.
Roll call, please.
We need a motion.
Oh, motion.
I'll move to approve the minutes.
I'll second.
Vice Chair Brousselian?
I move to approve.
Or yes?
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Commissioner Lambelat?
Yes.
Commissioner Perrin?
Yes.
Simmergens out. And Chair Magrin?
Yes.
Perfect.
Next item on the agenda, please.
Item 5, business agenda. Under item 5A, action items. Number 1, consideration and discussion of a partnership with Seroptimus International of Glendale for a human trafficking educational event. Item 1A, motion providing direction regarding a request for a monetary contribution and in-kind services.
Good evening, Commissioners and City staff. My name is Martha Wilson, and I'm president of Seroptimus International of Glendale. I'm just going to take a couple minutes and let you know what we do. We've been in the community for 77 years, and our focus is on how do we help women and girls in our community, primarily through programs leading to social and economic empowerment. Tonight we are talking about a program that has been in our community, and it's an issue that's very concerning to us as well as many other members. We are partnering with another community organization in Burbank, Zonta International, and it's a like-minded organization, and we're teaming together, and we would like to ask you to team with us, and this is on the issue of human trafficking. And I'm going to introduce you to Jean Kagan, who's our Vice President of Programs, and she is in charge of putting this great program together.
Good evening, Chairwoman and Commissioners. If I say human trafficking to you, you probably think of some poor little girl in Nepal who gets a bag thrown over her and carted off to some other country to be a denizen of a brothel. Well, that's really not human trafficking. Human trafficking. Could you speak in the microphone? Okay. Human trafficking is a modern form of slavery that profits from the exploitation of our most vulnerable population, most often children, young girls especially, and women. One misconception is that it simply involves just sex working. It doesn't. Probably there are more people trafficked for labor exploitation than sexual trafficking. And both of those are present in our community. Did you know that California has the distinction of having the highest number of trafficked people here? Last year we had 1,600 reported instances. Law enforcement says there are probably hundreds more that fly under the radar. So you have two women's organizations here, Seroptimus International of Glendale and Zonta, that very much have as our focus protecting women and advancing the status of women. For this reason, we are very much engaged in working to make the community aware of human trafficking and that it does exist right here in our Southern California communities. Now, for the last 2 years, we have partnered with Glendale Community College and presented a forum on human trafficking. And really our message was to the most vulnerable population, the young women on that campus, and also to the faculty to have them be aware of human trafficking. We've been invited back again this year to do another program on that topic. And we're going to title that one Human Trafficking, Don't Be a Target. And that program will be on April 30th. As we discussed the topic of human trafficking, it came to us that actually there are two distinct audiences. You have the at-risk population on the campus, and then the community at large. Again, there are a lot of people who don't realize that trafficking is right here. They think it's over in Nepal. So we decided to put together a double header on April the 30th. There will be the noontime program on the campus and the evening program, a community outreach to educate our fellow citizens, our community of Glendale and Burbank, as to the existence of trafficking and how to dispel the myths of trafficking, how to recognize a trafficked person even though they don't run up and tell you, I'm trafficked. There are signs. The program will be held starting at 6 p.m. in the community room of the Glendale Police Department. The Glendale Police Department, the Burbank Sheriff's Department will be participating. We will have speakers from Journey Out, and we are also trying to get a speaker from TAT. Does anyone here know what TAT is? Truckers Against Trafficking. I found that out just by happenstance, that the truckers have a program to combat it. We're trying to get a speaker in, and of course, we will have testimony from a survivor. So today we are coming to the commission to ask your support. We're asking you to partner with us, and we're asking if you could possibly underwrite a small grant to help us with the expenses of the program, most especially the cost of publicity. We would take any kind of assistance from you, in kind. We understand that you have marvelous ways of helping to publicize electronically. We would love to be able to ask that in-kind support. And we look forward to hopefully working together on this endeavor. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This item is open for discussion.
Chair Magrin, I'd like to
course.
make a couple of comments. Ms. Kagan, if you want to stay up here, there might be some questions. First of all, I wanted to make two comments. One is,
Chair Magrin, would you like to hear a report from staff on this item?
Yes, please.
So I think we went a little
Yeah,
bit
yeah,
reversed order on this.
Yes.
So if you'd like to hear a report,
that would be great.
one's prepared, so.
Well, most of it was covered in the report that I have, but one thing I'd like to mention is that any printing costs would be absorbed administratively by the Management Service Department, which is our department. So we'll help you out in that. Yes, definitely. So as mentioned, I believe you're requesting for about $1,000 in funds in-kind service,
Right,
correct?
because we are unsure as to compensation for the speakers. That's one of the biggest things. We have yet to figure out that because we haven't locked in the faculty yet.
So now it's open for discussion.
okay, I
Thank
wanted
you.
to make two comments. One, in the interest of full disclosure, I'm on the board of Seroptimus International of Glendale. This is the third annual human trafficking program we'll put on during the day, and this is the additional program at night. The second thing I wanted to mention is that Commissioner Brusilian and I have met with Ms. Powers twice since our last meeting we met as part of the ad hoc committee on community evaluation and assessment. And we identified via the last status of the report of women, the report of the status of women and girls in Glendale a few years ago, that human trafficking is one of the issues that we're concerned with. And as a result, this is one of the things that we came up with as fulfilling one of the goals of our ad hoc committee. Thank you.
I have a question to ask. Is there any way to have such a similar summit available to high school students that is towards high school girls that is more accessible to them, maybe on a high school campus that middle schools could also reach out to potentially?
We would look into that and very definitely be interested in doing something like that. What we came to is the subject is in many ways so broad, and you have various strata of people that you want to address. And even though it's a broad subject, there are different elements to target towards different age groups, et cetera. The way a trafficker might target you and come after you is different from an older person or a younger person, or depending if it's for sexual exploitation or labor exploitation. All of these we would target to the audience that we would be addressing. That's why we came up with the one for the college women, and it's at noon, so I guess you can't get away from school. And then the one in the evening will be more broad. We will try to get as much information as we can across to what we hope is a large and multi-strata audience. But yes, if you would want to contact us, we could see what we might be able to do in future. We would be much interested in that.
Thank you. That's all I have today.
Okay.
So just for just a recap, we will have an event on the 30th. It is going to be at noon, and there's one in the evening, you said, right?
And we are seeking your support for the one in the evening. That is the unknown for us. And that is the one we could use the most help with.
Perfect. And I think this maybe question is to the staff, once we have flyers or any information, if we can, GUSD can get a copy of the flyer, then what we could do is we can put it in a peach jar and advertise it to our middle school and high schools, and any participant can be part of it during the evening time.
That would be brilliant.
Yeah.
We would be delighted.
Definitely.
Really.
That's something
Thank
we
you.
could do on our end.
That's great. Thank you.
So
So we're now going to take a motion providing direction regarding a request for monetary contribution and in-kind services.
may I have a motion on this item?
I make a motion for alternative 1 to partner with Seroptis International of Glendale and Zonta on the evening human trafficking educational event with a $1,000 contribution along with in-kind services as described in the report.
I will second that motion.
Okay. Vice Chair Broussalian,
Yes.
Commissioner Lamolat,
Yes.
Commissioner Perrin,
Yes.
Chair Magrin.
Yes. Next item on the agenda, please. Thank you. Thank you very much. Mhm. Thank you.
Item 2, update on the Commission on the Status of Women's Legislative Agenda. Item 2A, motion providing direction on one additional bill, which is AB 1989. And if I may read, okay? So this report is an update on the Commission's legislative agenda. The state legislature reconvened on January 6, 2020 for the second of the 2-year session and has until February 21st to introduce new legislation. For newly introduced bills, the state legislature has until May 29th to pass bills out of their house of origin. The table in the report provides a status update on the bills that were still in committee at the end of last year that the Commission had previously taken an update on. From these bills, the only one that is still alive is AB 31, Assemblymember Garcia's bill regarding a sales tax exemption for feminine hygiene products. That bill has made it to the Senate and is still waiting to be assigned to a committee to be heard. There is one new bill that has been introduced this year for the Commission's consideration, which is Assembly Bill 1989, also authored by Assemblymember Garcia, and it would require that menstrual products have a list of all the ingredients in the product on a label that is clearly marked on the package box. So, if you'd like to discuss.
So this item is open for discussion this moment.
I have a question regarding this. I'm just curious because the item states that this would only impact anything that is manufactured in this state. So I'm thinking about the national brands that may be manufactured and distributed and shipped to us from other states. Would that impact, would this bill apply?
Domestic versus international? I'm not sure.
Or
but I can-
national versus local, let's say?
I can find out from.
Yeah, I would be curious of that. And then, of course, the next question would be, what percentage is national? And, is this going to just impact a small percentage of the product? And if so, what really is the benefit? And how is it going to really impact the manufacturers, the local manufacturers, if they have to repackage and relabel?
Cost related, yeah.
Financially, what kind of a hit are they going to take?
We'll get more clarity on that.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anyone else?
Yes. What would be in these products other than cotton or maybe a fragrance or something or?
If I'm not mistaken, you can have some, adverse elements. If from a long time ago, I remember the toxic shock syndrome.
Yes.
Was caused by, if I'm not mistaken, was it magnesium or something that was found in the product itself. So, and I don't know to what extent they're required to label what, but it was some elements and molecules that were found in the product itself? Because there's some absorbent chemicals in there.
I know I don't look the part to answer this question. Rube Golanian, Assistant City Manager. In my conversation with Christine Powers, she mentioned that some of these products contain bleach.
Oh,
And that's obviously
yeah.
very harmful, and they need to be labeled as such.
Oh, okay, bleach too.
And to answer to your previous question, the report says all the products manufactured for sale or distribution in the state will have to label them. So not necessarily manufactured in the state, but also distribution.
Distribution.
Okay, so in that case, again, my question would be, let's say if Procter & Gamble, or, it's manufactured in the East Coast, and it's being distributed here, would then that be
Exempt?
repackaged?
Yeah,
Or,
yes. Anything that's being sold or distributed in the state of California will have to be.
so would this impose on the hub, the manufacturer, let's say, in the East Coast, to repackage
Yes.
it?
Yes. If they want to sell them in California, yes.
Okay.
That's my
Yeah.
understanding, but
We'll
Yeah,
look into
I'm
I have
just curious, I
another
don't know.
question. What if they're products from overseas or international and they're coming in as off-brands? How does that get handled?
Chair Bruselian, I believe, and I'm not an expert on the subject, obviously, but anything, like I mentioned, that will have to get permission through the tariffs to be sold in the state of California will have to have the proper labeling.
And-
Doesn't matter where they're manufactured.
So lastly, my question would be, this sounds, would this increase the price?
More than likely, not with this products, but our experience with other products has shown that as long as you are requiring additional requirements that put a burden on the manufacturers, they'll have a cost
It'll be
impact.
passed on to
Yeah,
the consumer.
more than likely they'll pass it on to the consumers.
I had a question as well. Do you know if any other states have imposed this requirement?
I do not, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So do we have to motion on this item, or can we get back? Or
Well, certainly the report is prepared in a way where you can take action now if you choose. If you have remaining questions on one or more of them, you could parse those out and put that one item off and then approve the rest.
Okay.
It's really up to you.
Yeah. How do you guys?
I'd make a motion to defer consideration on this until we have more information.
So alternative 2.
Yeah, I agree.
Yes.
So are we all going with alternative 2 and take no action?
Yes.
Oh, no?
No.
Alternative 2 says not to support it.
No.
I think they're,
Yeah. We're
They're-
deferring it.
No action, but that's what Christine said.
Alternative 4, is that?
you want this brought back at a later time?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, so no action's necessary at this
So
point.
no roll call. So, what alternative was that?
There's no-
Okay.
Do we have to do roll call?
No.
No. Okay, next item, please.
Item 3, update regarding ad hoc committees to support the 2019 to 2022 strategic plan for the Commission on the Status of Women. Item 3A, motion providing further direction on ad hoc committees.
Chair Magrin, may I make a comment?
Of course.
And, along the same lines as mentioned before, Commissioner Bruselian and I met as part of the ad hoc committee. Well, I guess we are the ad hoc committee. Number one, evaluate and assess. And one of the things we worked with Ms. Powers on was updating and refreshing the Women and Families Resource Guide, which is up on the screen. Among other things, not only are we updating the information on the guide, but it's going to be available online as well. And when you go to the site online, there'll also be links to the websites for the various organizations to the extent they're available. We really felt like in the guide itself there was too much information. The final product will be half the size. It'll be like card size. It'll be on hard cardstock or maybe not laminated, but something that is, will wear and tear well. We've obviously changed the colors. The seal is more prominent, so is the Commission on the Status of Women. And the old yellow color seemed very dated, was not very appealing, and we liked the size. We thought it would stand out among others. So even though this is an 8.5 by 11 sheet, the final product is not. And of course, if the commissioners or the public have any other suggestions, I would assume they would contact Ms. Powers, and then we would, finalize it based on that.
Did you have anything to add?
Thank you. I have actually no real update for Ad hoc Committee number 3, Community Partnership and Outreach. However, I would like to open a discussion regarding the makeup of the committee itself and kind of put out there if different commissioners would be interested in participating on the committee.
So my understanding is that, you wanted to see if there are other people who wanted to participate in specific, okay.
If they have interest in
Joining
the
others.
committee, yeah.
And yours is?
Mine is the Ad hoc Committee number 3, Community Partnership and Outreach.
I would love to join, yeah.
Thank you.
So-
From a process perspective, Chair Magrin, you may recall that the ad hoc committees were decided by a vote of the commission to change the makeup of the commission. Currently, that committee, rather, has 2 members, Commissioner Perrion and Submergin. And so the vote we would need a motion to amend the makeup of that committee now to include Commissioner Perrion and Chair Magrin. So we would need a motion to that effect.
May I make that motion?
Sure.
Okay, I make that motion.
If I can get a second.
I second.
Okay, Vice Chair Versalian,
Yes.
Commissioner Lamalot,
Yes.
Commissioner Perrion,
Yes.
and Chair Magrin.
Yes. If I may add, I was just looking over the resource guide that you worked on. I think it's beautiful. I love the colors, very modern. But I noticed that, for example, some of the areas that applies to me, maybe we can do some revisions or some additions. We have a similar resource book in our office that is regarding parenting classes and mental health, then I would like them to be added on this list. So I can definitely send the information to you both, and you can maybe work with Christine to update that. But I love it. It's beautiful. I love the fact that it's colorful, and also, electronic parents or families can go in and view the website and see how they can seek support.
Thank you.
Thanks.
And thank you to the city's graphic department for
Oh,
working on this,
beautiful.
and Ms. Powers as well.
Thank you.
Yes.
Oh, go ahead. Yes.
So, my question is this: are you gonna distribute this flyer in the colleges and schools and other places?
I don't know. I believe it'll be available at the city as well as on the website. I'm not sure if it's going to be distributed.
You could certainly ask for some copies.
Because if it's gonna be distributed as a paper version, we can also add a QR code on it, so the students who usually want to access electronic, they can also scan and access that if it's gonna be distributed as a paper.
It's more, it's not necessarily going to be actively distributed. We want to put it at the library, it's here available in City Hall, but it's more up to you if that's something you think would be useful at school to contact Ms. Powers or us and find out how to get copies and take them to school. Okay. But great, that's a great idea.
I can work with Christine Powers on that inquiry.
Because as I work at college, I see that a lot of times students, even for the applications, they just scan this QR code and they just access it electronically. So for the students, it will be very useful if they want to because, they always want to access it electronically.
Of
so
course,
that would
everything.
be a good idea, I think.
And I mean, it would not only be useful, but it would bring, the Commission on Status of Women, a little bit more exposure
And they will
and the
be,
resources that we have.
yeah, they will access to the website and they will get more information on that.
Right.
Good idea.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Item 5, business agenda. Item 5B, reports, information only. 5.1, update regarding program celebrating the centennial of the 19th Amendment to the United States Constitution. So last year, the commission partnered with the Library Arts and Culture Department to celebrate the centennial of the 19th Amendment of the U.S. Constitution. And to mark this important part of history, the library curated an exhibit, Downtown Central Library's Reflect Space. The exhibition, titled Access, A Century After Women's Rights to Vote, will be on display from January 31st until March 15 of this year. This exhibit examines the past 100 years of women's rights through the work of several contemporary women artists and considers the role of women today and their access to positions of power. The opening reception was held on January 31st from 7 to 9 p.m. and was very successful and had over 100 attendees. The partnership with the CSW was included in the program book, along with acknowledgement at the event. As part of the gallery opening, the library featured an artist talk that explored whether women have achieved empowerment and access to power with the right to vote. Exhibit 1 of this report provides information about the artists featured in the exhibit. Staff has also provided copies of the exhibition booklet to you all this evening. Part of the exhibit also included a collaboration with the League of Women Voters of Glendale and Burbank to feature a high school video project. Glendale Public High School students were invited to create and submit a short video in line with the theme of the exhibit. The winning video, created by Riley Helberg from Crescenta Valley High School, is being featured on an iPad in the Reflect space, and the winner was recognized during the opening reception. Staff is working on adding credits to the end of the video to acknowledge the winners and the league's role before featuring this video on the CSW's website, as well as with GTV6. And we would like to showcase the video to the CSW now, and I'll go ahead and play the video.
We sat down with a handful of high school girls to talk about why voting is important. Why is it important?
Because even though first of all, it's the easiest way to get your voice heard in government, and we were founded to be for the people, by the people. And so if you don't vote, then you're taking away your own right to be in the democracy and have your voice heard.
And it seems like a waste to not use our voice to make a change.
Does voting make an impact?
Voting definitely makes an impact. Historically, it's shown that when people are educated on why it's important to vote, it really brings people in to do that.
It's a way to create change in your life, in areas of your life that you might not be incredibly in control of, but you still have this great tool to get your voice heard.
And so if you don't vote, then you're just taking that privilege away from yourself.
And the fact that a woman now today wouldn't use their ability to do that is just ridiculous.
If you're not going to listen to them, listen to her. Does voting make an impact?
Yes. It is the next president.
That concludes it. Okay. That concludes the report. Staff would be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
I don't have a question. Diane Lambalot and I went to the opening a week ago Friday. As you mentioned, it was in the Glendale Main Library. It's called Reflect Space. It's a room, and it's named Reflect Space. It's on the first floor, and it's filled with different tapestries and artifacts regarding suffrage and the 19th Amendment and the 100th year anniversary of enabling women to access their political power. And it was very nice. It was a nice event, and I encourage everyone to go and visit that space before they change it. March 15th is the last day, so it was very nice.
Thank you.
Item 6, commission staff comments.
Again, Diane and I went to the meeting of the California and Los Angeles Commissions on the Status of Women in November. It was held on November 15th in downtown LA. There were many topics, including domestic violence, homelessness, human trafficking. Just really briefly, Mount St. Mary's report on the status of women presented facts that homelessness has gone up. 1/3 of women are homeless. 1/3 of those homeless people are women. There's a lot of sexual assault victims and people fleeing from domestic violence and human trafficking, which is what we discussed today. The shelters are over capacity and they need extra space. They get way too many calls versus the number of available beds there are at these shelters. They need a financial increase from the city of Los Angeles in order to accommodate more people who need that shelter. They also talked about, there's a program, it's online, it's called lookagainla.com. It's a program which hones in on human trafficking issues and how the public may be ignoring the signs, sort of what we talked about today as well. The average age of these children forced into human trafficking is 12 years old, if you can imagine that. It's so sad. And they're posting signs in areas where human trafficking is more relevant, and those signs are, they're causing some controversy right now, and they're sensitive issues, but something's got to be done to, help these poor children and women. March is considered Women's History Month, so mark your calendars. We'll probably hear a lot more about that. Lots of good information. So I thoroughly enjoyed attending that program. I learned a lot there.
I concur. It was several hours long. There were a number of speakers and various city officials popped in. So it was very useful, and there was a real collaborative feeling as well.
Yes.
Thank you, colleagues. I appreciate it. I know that when I did receive the email from Christine Powers, it was a bit too late. I had prior commitments and I was not able to attend, but I'm glad that we had representatives from this commission. I also wanted to update our next meeting in May. We will be talking about human trafficking, and I have worked with Christine. I believe Cassie from Memorial Hospital will be presenting to us what the hospital is doing regarding this topic. Also, August, we will have presenters from either GPD or Peace Violence about domestic violence once again, and we have month of November open, so we can discuss that now, or if you have any ideas, we can send it to Christine later on, and what any topics or ideas or departments you would like to present.
We can talk about that maybe later.
Sure. Okay. Any other questions? No? All right. So thank you for all the comments, and we thank for the presenters that they were here, and we are requesting to motion to adjourn the meeting today, and meeting adjourned at 6:19 p.m. Motion?
I move to adjourn the meeting.
I second.
Thank you.
Thank you.